One of the things I personally like to do when I'm speaking to somebody about a loan is to go over the numbers with the business owner, talk about the ROI of the problem they're looking to solve, whether that means they're losing revenue because of a deficiency or they stand to gain revenue because of an expansion. And then what I do is I annualize the return on that, cross-reference it against what the loan's going to cost, and see if there's going to be an upside on the ROI. This is the best way to know if you're actually doing the right thing.
Let's go through one of these scenarios right now, hypothetically, of course. Let's say we have a business owner who has an auto repair shop with 2 lifts in it. And unfortunately, moving parts do what moving parts do best. One of these lifts, unfortunately, goes out. The first thing I want to do is figure out, what does this whole thing cost? AKA, what's the damage? This is a hypothetical, of course, so we're going to use Google and kind of use the lazy AI overviews to figure out what the cost of this scenario will be, really just for demonstration purposes. So I asked, how much revenue per day on average does a single lift in an auto repair generate? According to Modern Tire Dealer in 2016, this can be approximately $800 per day in revenue. Obviously, 2016 was 9 years ago, but let's go ahead and use those numbers so that we can establish a baseline. Next question I have is, if we're at $800 per day, how many days per year are we looking at? These estimates range between 260 days a year and 312 days a year, depending on whether this is a 5-day work week or a 6-day work week. I'd like to sit somewhere in the middle, so let's just call it 275. I also go to worst case scenarios when it comes to the use of the proceeds, so I want to know, what does it cost to replace an auto repair lift? Based on this, it looks like the top end is going to be $25,000 or more. So that's what we'll use. So at $800 a day times 275 days in the year, you're talking about $220,000 in lost revenue on the year. And for our replacement cost, we estimated $25,000, which is going to be the loan that we're going for. And in our scenario here, we are going on worst case hypotheticals. So let's just say cash on hand is only $3,000. The revenue direction is going downward month over month because of the loss of the lift. The credit score is only at 490, and then their time in business is at 1.5 years. In this scenario, we don't have the 20% down payment for the $25,000 repair that credit score would warrant for an equipment financing loan, and their time in business is only 1.5 years, so they would be excluded from a lot of the loans that prefer a 2-year mark. In this scenario, the only type of loan they're going to qualify for is likely going to be a merchant cash advance, which is admittedly a much more expensive loan. Does that mean it can't be beneficial? Let's walk through the numbers. Rather than an interest rate, merchant cash advances are done on what's called a factor rate, which essentially means you can take that rate and multiply it by the loan amount to understand what your total repayment is going to be. So in this hypothetical, we've chosen 1.5 as it is a very high factor rate, which at a 1.5, the total repayment on $25,000 would be $37,500.
This is about the point where sticker shock usually sets in on a loan like this, and it's really important to go over the numbers with the client at that point and make sure they understand exactly what the loan's going to do for them rather than what it's just going to cost.
So let's walk back through it. We have a lift out. It's costing us $800 a day or $220,000 per year. The replacement cost is going to be $25,000. We do not have the cash to do it ourselves. We do not have the revenue direction to prove that we're going the right way to a bank. We do not have the credit score to get most types of loans, and we don't have the time in business to get most types of loans either. The loan on the surface feels pretty expensive, but the question to ask at the end of the day is it going to be worth it to spend $37,500 to recoup $220,000 per year in lost revenue?
The answer is not always yes, the answer is not always no. It's going to be dependent upon profit margins and pretty much any other factor that can happen in a business. But the point is, high interest doesn't always mean a bad deal. Sometimes the situation you're in dictates that you need to take on something a little bit higher interest in order to get back to where you need to be, which is why I always do the ROI exercise.